In episode 6, Luther wakes up with Sloane, and they're trying to keep their relationship a secret, but they don't do a great job of it. Sloane's room is right next to Faye, and Sloane's bed is pretty creaky, so Faye knew that Luther was there. She knocks on the door in the morning and tells Luther, Ben wants to have a word with you. Ben asks Luther, all right, I need to know, what's with your family's weird fetish with me? And Luther explains that Ben was the best of all of them, he just died way too soon. And even though the version in front of him is kind of a jerk, he'll take it, because it means at least he's got his brother back. Ben tells him, I'm not him, you moron. And Luther says, yes, I'm aware. My Ben was selfless and kind. And when Luther tells him, maybe there's a little bit of my Ben inside of you, Ben just shoots that down saying, no, not at all. He then gets to the real reason of why he called the meeting. Without Marcus around, they need a big brooding force. Luther can be that. So he has Grace bring him Marcus's old uniform. He wants Luther to join the Sparrow Academy. At first, Luther says no. He's already got a family of his own. But Sloane slowly starts to convince him, and he starts to consider it. It is, by the way, a move that Faye completely disagrees with. Now, everybody is completely unaware of the fact that Luther isn't the only umbrella that is in the house, because Klaus has snuck back in. He needs answers on what is going on with the Buffalo. Reginald really doesn't want to talk to Klaus very much, but Klaus forces him to, because as he tells him, everything is leading me back to you. The painting, the White Buffalo suite, and Reginald cuts him off and says, you know about the White Buffalo suite? And Klaus says, yeah, that's where I died. I just feel like there's something I'm supposed to be doing, and it's important, but no one's telling me what it is. And I'm scared that I'm going to miss out because I'm always screwing things up, and I'm tired of it. So I need you to help me understand certain things about who I am. Like, for example, why did you lock me in a mausoleum and slow down my heart rate until I came to in a pool of my own vomit? That's something that when he died, the girl on the bicycle showed him. Reginald has Klaus sit on the chair and start telling him exactly what he saw. And as Klaus is telling him, Reginald is drawing these really weird symbols. He finds it absolutely fascinating. And he tells Klaus that everything's been fascinating since he's been weaned off those pills. It's a trick that Klaus taught him. Because of that, he wants to return the favor and help Klaus understand who he really is. Klaus is all on board. So Reginald hooks Klaus up to an electromagnetic machine and shocks him. And Klaus drops to the ground like a stone. As Klaus tries to find out who he really is, Diego is trying to find Stan. He wakes up with Lila, but Stan is nowhere to be found. He then notices that right around the area where the arrow went through Klaus, it looks like there's a secret door, and when they open it up, they find Stan's lucky lighter just sitting there, and they figure that he must have gone down this tunnel. They start following it, but it looks like the Jamiroquai video for Virtual Insanity. There's a throwback for you, but a lot of mirrors, a lot of lights. And when they get to the end of the tunnel, they're in a very identical room to the one they just left, but there are differences. Like instead of a buffalo's head mounted on the wall, there's the backside of a buffalo mounted to the wall. The paintings are also different, and it just seems like it's a very Asian-themed room. They head downstairs, and the Hotel Obsidian is now called the Hotel Oblivion. It is also empty. Diego goes to ring the bell that's at the front desk, but Lila stops him because there's a sign written in Mandarin that says, don't ring the bell. And Diego can't understand why they would put a bell there if they don't want them to ring it, but he gets distracted when Lila says, Trudy's going to kill me. And he says, who's Trudy? And Lila tells him it's Stan's mom, because Stan isn't actually their child. This was all a setup. Lila just wanted to see how Diego would react if he found out he was a father. Diego finds this absolutely insane, and Lila reminds him, you met me in an insane asylum. Which, she's got a point with that one. Stanley's also in on it, and Diego is so mad that he starts stuttering again. Now they both are completely stressed out because this isn't their kid, it's somebody else's. They have to find Stanley. Even though the sign says not to, Diego walks over to the front desk and rings the bell, and immediately he regrets it. The hotel starts getting dark. There's a lot of ominous vibes, and they hear something that is big, growling, and coming their way. They go to a part of the hotel where there's a little bit of light coming through, and they're waiting for this thing to show up. Diego grabs a knife, but before he can even throw it, a big axe comes his way and chops off 2 of his fingers. They then notice that there is a giant samurai figure walking towards them, and he doesn't look happy. They don't even grab the fingers. They quickly get the hell out of there, and they're able to go back through the tunnel and back to the Hotel Obsidian. And when they get to the other side, there's Stanley, drinking a slushie and eating a Slim Jim. But then Stanley disappears because the hotel was hit by yet another Kugel wave. And now it seems like he is gone for good. Now, one person who is gone, at least for the time being, is Five. Pogo wanted nothing to do with him, so Five followed him to his trailer in the middle of the woods, and he was able to convince him to give him the full backstory. Pogo was training the Sparrow Academy just like he trained the Umbrella Academy, but he had a falling out with Reginald. Reginald flat out kicked Pogo out, and some of the kids were pretty heartbroken about it, like Marcus seemed upset, and Pogo gave him a box that was filled with a bunch of pills. Now he's a part of a biker gang and he does tattoos. Five is able to successfully convince him that they do actually know each other from another timeline. Five then slaps down the tattoo, and Pogo admits, this does look like my work, but I haven't done it. And Five says, well, not yet you haven't. He explains where he got the tattoo, and Pogo just says, so it's happened. He opens up a notebook, and there are a bunch of symbols, and all of the symbols match up to at least a part of the tattoo. Pogo tells Five that Reginald was obsessed with those symbols. It's called a sigil. It's a symbol that's thought to have magical powers, which doesn't make sense to Five because their dad was always a very scientific man. He wouldn't believe in such a thing. But apparently the Reginald in this timeline does. Pogo tells him that Reginald referred to it as Project Oblivion. And that definitely catches the ear of Five because it was the last thing that older Five told current Five before he died. Pogo then goes into one of the reasons why he was kicked out. Reginald was training the kids for a kamikaze mission. Pogo didn't think it was safe. And that is why he gave the children the pills, the same pills that Reginald has since stopped taking because of the tip from Klaus. When Pogo finds out that Reginald is off the pills, he says to Five, Project Oblivion is starting again, and you are all in danger. With that information, there's only one thing left to do. Get the tattoo. And even though Pogo said he wouldn't, he ends up tatting him anyway. And then finally, there's Harlan. He was taken to an old, abandoned drive-in movie theater and kept safe by Allison. Not too long later, Victor shows up, and they know that they need to hurry this up because they're running out of time. So Victor and Harlan get to work. Problem is, they don't really know how to go about this whole thing. Harlan tells Victor, try what you did back in 1963. I know it didn't work, but I'm not a kid anymore. He then starts showing Victor what he means. He starts glowing, and then he asks Victor, did you hear it? But Victor says, no. I heard wind. And Harlan says, no, deeper than that. Every living thing has an energy wave. It's a sound of its own. Listen for it. He then starts doing it again, but this time way more powerful than the first time, creating kind of like a force field around both of them. The whole while, Harlan is yelling at Victor, you gotta listen. It's not like Victor isn't trying, but it's putting him in a lot of pain. Allison sees what's going on and tries to get Harlan to stop, but he won't. She then enters that kind of force field that Harlan had created, and she yells at Harlan, stop, it's too much. And her voice really carries, knocks Harlan off his game, and it does end up saving Victor. Although Harlan's pissed. He yells at Allison, you had no right, we were making progress. But the way that Allison looked at it, Harlan was about to kill Victor. She also has no idea how she just did what she did. It was as if her powers were amplified. She then goes and checks on Victor, and Victor says, I'm fine. You don't have to be here if you don't want to watch. So Allison doesn't, going off and thinking about her previous life. Victor and Harlan continue to train. Harlan tells Victor that when he left, Harlan realized that he had this power inside of him. He had no idea what it was. He hoped he could use it for something good. The reality is he had no idea what it was, though. He called it Marigold. And he tells Victor, you gotta stop listening with your ears. Harlan then puts his headphones on Victor's ears, and the two create yet another force field, although this time they start levitating above the ground. It's super powerful. Allison is scared for her brother, but then all of a sudden, Harlan yells, and you literally see the power go from him and back inside Victor. When that happens, their bond is seemingly broken, and they drop to the ground. Victor's pretty wiped out. Allison goes to check on him, but all Victor cares about is Harlan, and Harlan confirms that the power is gone. They let Victor sleep it off because he's really wiped out. And Harlan asks Allison, what do I do now? She says, you go home and we clean up your mess. Harlan asks Allison, why don't you like me? Is it because of what I did to your mothers? But Allison has no idea what he's talking about. And it doesn't take more than a couple seconds for Allison to realize that it was him. Harlan was the one who did it. Harlan starts apologizing, saying that he couldn't stop himself. And you once again see that mean streak from Allison. As Harlan's trying to apologize, Allison yells at him, sorry is what you say when you spill a glass of milk, not obliterate somebody's child. She then decides to take matters into her own hands. She kills Harlan, putting him in the trunk of the car and telling the Sparrow Academy that she's coming over. When she arrives, she's got a welcome party waiting for her. Faye, Ben, and Reginald all standing outside, and that's when Allison shows them the body of Harlan in the trunk. She then starts making her way into the house so they can all figure out how to get rid of the Kugelblitz, but she notices there's another member there of the Sparrow Academy. It's Luther, wearing Marcus's uniform. And all Allison can do is shake her head and walk right by him. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.